Don't check your dials. You are at the right place. I'm getting ready for the summer. The beach. It's National Don't Fry Day. It's National Cooler Day, and I have three amazing people that are be joining me today. First of all, I know that a lot of you are surprised that I would open with an Alice Cooper song, but school's out. The summer's here. It's the unofficial beginning of summer, and we have so much to celebrate today. I have three amazing guests, three women that I think the world of are all going to be on the show today. And I'll tell you my Alice Cooper story. Years ago, Madison Square Garden did a thing called Madison Scare Garden, and I was hired as, believe it or not, a demented clown. And it was a very audience immersive event. Alice Cooper was coming through, and I knew that Alice Cooper was coming through. They had alerted us to the fact. And I jumped out, and he flew back on his tuchus. I won't tell you what he said to me, but I have an autographed photograph of him saying that I scared the hell out of this man and that he wet his pants. So that's my Alice Cooper story. But I am going to begin today by bringing on a very dear friend of mine. And this is the only time I can get her when she's not sitting by my husband's side, because they are constantly doing so many things together. She is very involved with the Piermont Historical Society. She got me booked at Roost in March, so I'm thankful for that. She's a phenomenal photographer. She is a writer. This incredible book, Jewels of the Sea. Forget The Little Mermaid tonight. Read this, get this book and read this. But Betsy, I'm so glad that you're here. And we're also going to talk about an event that's coming up on June 10th, right here in Piermont, in our backyard, that you are actively involved with. So where do you want to begin today? Who or what are you celebrating today?
Wow. Well, Richard, celebrating a lot. They're celebrating this gorgeous weather and celebrating Piermont. Piermont, our town that we both live in, is this little jewel. And actually this weekend, there's another thing going on. And you were saying about being on the side of Dan, your husband. He and I are both members of the board of the Piermont Historical Society. We're both historic society. We're both geeks of loving history. And this weekend, we are opening up the train station, which is a museum. So we do that only in the summer months, and it has some amazing, cool history in it. And that's going to be Sunday this weekend. And then in 2 weeks, like you said, it's going to be even more amazing because all artists in the area, it's called the Hudson Valley Arts Festival, our first annual. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there we go. So it's art, music, film, spoken word, and an artisan market. So we have a beautiful park here called Flywheel Park, and there are going to be tents, and there's going to be a stage. And I'm one of the few that are going to be doing spoken word art. And basically that means that I will be reading my children's books. So Richard was holding up one of them. I have two others. Yeah, there's Jewels of the Sea. There are two others that are based on songs by incomparable Christine Lavin.
We
all love Christine Lavin. I approached her several years ago to illustrate one of her amazing songs, and now we've done two together. One of them won a Best Book Award from the American Association for the Advancement of Science. So we are very proud of that. So the arts on June 10th are just going to be amazing here throughout the town. So I hope everybody who's around Piermont, around the area, we're not far from New York City either. No, right? That's what's so beautiful about our area, right, Richard?
Well, let me ask you this. How did you end up in Piermont?
Well, it wasn't very hard because I was born in Nyack Hospital.
Well,
and
here, so
Yeah, I'm
excited for that.
not far from here. I've always lived in Rockland County. It sounds like I'm such a little country bumpkin. I've traveled the world, not extensively, but I have been to Europe and all over the country and everything. But I just love this area. So I grew up with kids from Piermont. And when I came back to live in Piermont, from living in Blauvelt, in Clarkstown, it was like coming home.
Mhm.
There are people here that I went to high school with, grammar school, and it just has I just felt like, I'm home, and they embraced me. And the thing about Piermont is no one judges anybody. And you know that, Richard. We're all our own unique beings, and we're all appreciated for our diversity. And I'm just very grateful to be here in Piermont.
Well, I know that when I go to an event in Piermont, almost inevitably, you are always there. You photograph everything. But your photography is phenomenal to begin with. As a matter of fact, we have one of your photographs hanging in our dining room. But I wanted to ask you, is there ever a day or a night or a time where you just shut down from everything? Because it seems to me like you're always on the go.
It's very rare, Richard. Very rare. We've had so many. The Historical Society recently had their big yearly annual fundraiser.
And I was sick and I couldn't go.
No, we missed you.
I miss being there.
Oh, I know. It's always so much fun. And
did Danny look cute?
Dan, oh my gosh, I was going to say, Dan was all right. The fundraiser, the theme was all aboard, next stop Piermont, because this is a railroad town. It used to be a railroad town. The tracks are torn up, and we actually have a great rail to trail that people bikes and everything, walkers, joggers. So he was dressed as an engineer, as the train engineer. I was dressed as one of the train station masters, but don't be fooled. I was not in a suit. I was Belle Kelly, station master here for over 30 years. So I was dressed with I'm sure some of the Broadway people here or the stage people know about a Gibson hairdo. Well, I had a Gibson hairdo done by Angelique Ilo, who is actually.
Oh, I love Angelique.
Yeah, Angelique.
If you're watching, I want you on the show sometime.
Oh yeah. Well, right now she's co-choreographing with Susan Stroman the West End version of Crazy for You, yes, which next year we're hoping to bring. Not we. They're hoping to bring.
Me. Yes, me.
Yeah, we're hoping to bring to Broadway. So right now she's in London in rehearsals, which is very exciting. But on the side, she does hair. I mean, she cuts my hair all the time. I've been going to her for years. And I said, hey, I need a Gibson girl hairdo. She just whipped it up. It was amazing.
That's great. Well, I want to bring on, speaking of Broadway, I want to bring on our next guest because she has this amazing book celebrating Stephen Schwartz. Elysa Gardner, I am so thrilled that you said yes to being here today. Meet Betsy Franco Feeney. And
hello.
But you have worked as a critic, and you are a writer, and you are in so many areas of the business. Before we jump in this book, which I want to talk about, I want to ask, who or what are you celebrating today?
Oh gosh, well, it's hard not to be celebrating this magnificent weather, I guess, and theater award season in New York, which is always exciting, and it was a particularly good season this year, and kind of jam-packed with really interesting original plays and musical revivals. Sorry, you hear a siren out there.
That's New York.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's New York, and you're gonna, if you see a lump under the couch, not under the covering of the couch, that's our dog Nellie, who always likes to be here with us. And yes, we do have a year-round Christmas tree because we don't have any place else to put it. So I'm just sort of explaining the scenic design in our little apartment. But yeah, that's what I'm celebrating. And I must say, Betsy, that I am a Rockland County girl myself. I grew up in New City, and I went to Clarkstown North High School.
My daughter went to Clarkstown North High School for 1 year, but you're probably in that generation in between her and in between and me. So
I think I'm closer to you. Absolutely, probably. I'm definitely, yeah. But
my daughter's 34.
Okay. Well, did they still have the Clarkstown Theater Festival? The Clarkstown Summer Theater Festival?
Summer Theater, I believe they do. Yeah, she was part of that. In fact, she's an actor. We have to get her, Richard. We have to get her on.
When she says yes, she's got an open spot here on the show.
Yeah.
But listen, I want to get, and by the way, Betsy, Danny said he had trouble opening up your video clip. So unfortunately, I will put that on the YouTube channel so that people can go and see the show.
Yeah, you were saying.
But I am trying to get Suede's video clip uploaded as I'm talking. I'm multitasking here as I'm doing everything. So why Stephen Schwartz, Elysa?
Well, actually, it was, he's one of my favorite composers. I think he's one of those composers who really gets musical theater structure and infuses that with pop music in a way that's very graceful. There's a lot of rock influenced musical theater that I am not crazy about. I'm not going to name any names, going to keep things positive. But I'm a big fan of his music. And I was interested in the chemistry and the tension between him and Bob Fosse. This was the one show that they did together. And there's so many stories about the friction between the two of them. And, Mr. Fosse, unfortunately, is no longer around, has not been for many years. So I couldn't get his side of the story, but I could speak with a number of the dancers who are now, some of them sadly have passed as well, but a number of them are still very much here in their 70s and 80s and incredibly vital, as only I think dancers can be, just so on top of everything, so brimming with life and so full of stories. And they had wonderful stories. And, I just wanted to capture that sort of synergy and that, period of time when Broadway and I think pop culture generally and the culture at large were very much in transition. So I think it was a fascinating time and a fascinating musical. So it was a real trip to speak to all these wonderfully talented people. And it was during COVID that I put the book together. So it was, I couldn't see any shows. I really was stuck in my apartment. I thought, now's a good time to write a book. And it happened to be the 50th anniversary coming up. So it was perfect timing in every sense.
Were you aware before you started on the book about the friction between the two? Because I have to tell you, and it jumps right off your pages.
Well, thank you.
And I had no idea of that history between the two of them until your book came along. Speaking about magic to do.
Yeah, I was aware. I mean, I didn't know specifics, and everybody's kind of got their own stories. Even among the cast members, there were some who told me, "Well, oh, I'm sorry, did I?"
No, go ahead.
Oh, because I think my computer just did something weird. All right,
we can
still hear me and see me. Okay. Yeah, I've heard different things from cast members. I mean, it wasn't like there was definitely buzz about it, but it wasn't like the way one dancer put it was that it wasn't like the parents fought in front of the kids. They, for the most part, they kind of kept it calm on the surface. There were a couple of blowups, and at one point, in fact, Stephen Schwartz was sort of bounced out of rehearsals, at least at one point. And by certain recollections, he was not permitted back in again, but he, at a certain point, had to be, obviously, to get the show up and running in Washington and then New York. But I don't think, I think he did feel quite isolated from the cast, who were all very close to Bob Fosse. He didn't feel any when we spoke, he didn't talk about feeling like anybody in the cast was unpleasant or mean to him. It was more that, as a dancer, choreographer, director, Bob Fosse spoke a very particular language. He was also a veteran at that point, and this was Stephen Schwartz's first Broadway show. He was in his early 20s.
You brought me to exactly where I wanted to go with this. Do you think that was a real major contributing factor between?
Yeah. Stephen Schwartz has said it was. I mean, he has said, when I asked him if he would take part in the book, which he did so generously, or else I could not have written it. He said I was young and arrogant, and he was fresh off a couple of successes. He had just collaborated with Leonard Bernstein, of all people, on Mass, and he had Godspell, a massive hit off Broadway. So he was this kind of wunderkind, and along comes Bob Fosse, this very celebrated director and choreographer, who at the same time was not at a very great juncture in his career. He'd had a couple of sort of negative experiences, but he was about to bounce back in a huge way, not only with Pippin, but with Cabaret, the film, and Liza with a Z, the TV special. That was
like a juggernaut in his life career, yes.
Absolutely. And then, of course, he wound up getting depressed and was hospitalized and had a massive heart attack. So, he was a fascinating character to learn more about through other people, through research. Came across as very charismatic and also very low key. People spoke a lot about his humility, but of course he had a tremendous ego as well. I mean, he had that duality, like so many people at that level do. I mean, why wouldn't you have an ego if you're Bob Fosse, right?
Of course. Absolutely. But I want to ask, I'm always curious, especially with writers and their books. The first words that we read, are they the first words that you wrote?
Well, this is my first book. I've been a journalist for many years, and I'm used to working on deadline. And I'm not used to doing first drafts. So I kind of just cranked it out, but then I went back and I didn't write it chronologically, because there were bits and pieces that I were getting at different times. And I knew that, I had a certain amount of research that ahead of me at one point, and I would write something else first. And then, so I sort of did it in bits and pieces, I suppose. And then, of course, you have your editor look at the book, and they tell you what they want to add or to take out. But my editor was extremely kind and generous, and it was not very heavy lifting once I got the book returned to me. So it was not as much a Herculean task as I thought it would be, but I think that's because it probably would have been a better book had it been a more Herculean task. I don't know. I mean, I worked on it for a year and a half, and I had a certain amount of time, and I had wonderful people to speak with who gave me all kinds of great stories and terrific resources. Stephen Schwartz's biographer, Carol de Geer, gave me a bunch of stuff. She was a librarian. She sent me reams and reams of stuff. And I went to the Library of Congress. I went to the library at Lincoln Center. So I just had all these gifts to work with. And that made it a lot more fun. And,
You're muted.
Oh.
You'll have to forgive me. I have a brand new computer. Literally, this is my third day on it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just sorting out the kinks. So
I want to ask, as you were writing the book, did doors easily open for you, or was it a difficult process for you? And was there a Holy Grail interview that you could not believe when you got it? And was there one that got away?
There was one that got away. The original, and this was entirely my fault. I did not reach out to Pippin's original understudy, but for the second edition of the book, that was just a complete blind spot on my part. But I will definitely be including him in the second edition which I'm hoping I'll be lucky enough to be able to do. Stephen Schwartz was the first door that opened, and it was a massive door. I mean, once I had his approval and his support, his cooperation, we spoke every week on Facebook because of the pandemic. And eventually I went to his house. He was generous enough to share with me some of the original material he was working on. He gave me photos, which I used in the book, as did certain cast members. The Holy Grail, you know, it was more like just a composite of all these different interesting people that I spoke to. Again, the Fosse dancers, who were such unique individuals and so gifted and so vital. And I did get to speak, not just speak with, but I got to correspond with Berry Gordy's assistant, who was able to put me into a sort of email relationship with him. Actually, it was with her, but she would get me quotes from him, which, you know, he's in his 90s. And I think a massive part of the story really is how Motown was involved with the show. Berry Gordy was a producer. Motown released the original cast album. And I think the album, I think Bob Fosse and Stephen Schwartz were both very enamored of Black artists and the legacy of the huge contributions Black artists have made to American pop culture, to dance, to popular music. And that played a huge role in Pippin. And, you know, I noticed that was ironically one of the things they shared. It couldn't bring them together. They both had that sense of love and appreciation, and they were both opposed to the Vietnam War. Those were two things that massively connected them, but alas, they could not overcome their differences at the time.
Did anything change for you in terms of the way that you thought about Stephen Schwartz and his music? And I will say that I think he is one of the nicest men in the business.
Yeah. No, and I've heard not. You know, I mean, you know, he was the one who kept telling me, oh, I was young, I was arrogant, I had an ego. So I didn't have to find anyone to tell me that. The people I spoke with, who, in addition to the dancers, included, you know, people like Benj Pasek and Justin Paul and Janine Tesori, you know, latter day composers who are admirers and friends and were supported by him. You know, he's been a huge support when he was heading the Drama Guild, and just as, you know, as Sondheim was really the other Stephen S. of Broadway, you know, was you know, very much valued as a guide and a supporter of younger artists. Stephen Schwartz is, and you get, I mean, I got that sense. I certainly that jives with everything I experienced, you know, in my much lesser role as a chronicler of what had happened in his young life.
No, that's great. Well, I want to hopefully get our next guest on, because I see somehow she has left the building. There seems to be an issue. She's in a hotel. Suede, everyone, we all love Suede. And Suede is in Algonquin in a hotel room. And so hopefully she's going to get her Wi-Fi service on. But I do have a clip that I'm going to share with all of you. And I hope that by the end of this clip that she will be able to rejoin us. So here is Suede.
I've come to sing a song about hope. I'm not inspired much right now, but even so, I came out here to sing a song, so here I go. I guess I think that if I tinker long enough, one might appear. And look, it's here, One verse is done, the work's begun. I've come to sing a song about hope. In spite of everything ridiculous and sad, though I'm beyond belief depressed, confused and mad, well, I got dressed. I underestimated how much that would take. I didn't break until right now. I sing of hope, but don't know how. So maybe I can substitute strength, because I'm strong enough. I got through lots of things I never thought I could, and so did you. I know that's true, and so I sing a song about hope. Though I can't guarantee there's something real behind it, I've got to try to show myself that I can find it. And so today, when life is crazy and impossible to bear, it must be there. Fear never wins. That's what I hope. See, I said hope, the work begins. Substitute strength, because we're strong enough. We got through lots of things we never thought we could. I know that's true. I know that's true. And so I sing a song about hope. Though I can't guarantee there's something real behind it, we've got to try to show ourselves that we can find it. And so today, when life is crazy and impossible to bear, it must be there. Fear never wins. That's what I hope. See, I said hope, the work begins.
And she's here.
Oh,
Hello. I saw that you disappeared, and then I said, I'm going to put this on, and I'm going to hope
I,
that she
I,
show up.
I thought, oh, thank God Richard is great at winging it. He'll figure this out. Right? Sorry about that.
God.
In the hotel, internet is iffy. Good, I'm back. And who knows for how long.
Well, I'm glad you're in Algonquin tonight. Am I correct?
I am indeed. Excuse me 1 second here while I bump up there we go. Yes, I just got to Ogunquit. We're here tomorrow night at Jonathan's, fabulous Jonathan's. But before anything else, I have to just weigh in here and say that I too was born at Nyack Hospital.
What? Wait, Elysa, were you born in Nyack Hospital?
No, I was born in the Bronx.
Oh, the Bronx. That's okay.
Bronx,
I
yes.
lived
The Bronx.
for 5 years, so
What a trip. Yes, indeed. How about that?
Amazing.
And I can't believe all three of us have not connected previously for all the years that I have been in and out of Piermont. And I will be back at Birdland on November 9th in New York. So that's pretty fantastic.
have a date scheduled for Turning Point?
I don't have anything with Turning Point at the moment, believe it or not. I usually will hit Turning Point as we're doing kind of a headed down to a mid-Atlantic swing, which I'm doing next week. But John loves to do the early Sunday thing at Turning Point, which I love doing. And it just didn't work this time with the other shows, with the rest of the tour. So,
well, Suede, detach yourself from that and do a late night show. We'll be there for you.
you know, I love doing a 4:00 show, just like, like Jamie Lee Curtis introduced this whole radical idea. And people love going to an earlier show, especially for those of us, getting a little older. It's, but it's funny because it really is unusual to stand on the stage and see the light from outside. It's like, and it's not because the birds are starting to sing,
Into the Turning. Well, the only light that I see when I go to a Suede concert is Suede. Yes, it's true, because I am such a fan of yours, and when you come into town, I try to be there, as you know.
I know.
But you're always on the road, it seems like.
Well, tomorrow is the first concert I've done in 5 months. I very, intentionally took a bunch of time off. My mom passed away in October, and I was my sister and I were her primary caregivers. And that's such a big, big thing. And I just went, you know what? I just need to stop and be in the quiet a little bit and out of the madness of, constantly traveling and performing, which I love, love, love. I'm so grateful I actually get to do it. But I just took a little bit of a break. So we'll see how much of it I remember tomorrow night.
When you're putting together, Suede, what is your process in terms? There's so many songs that you have performed over the years, and there are favorites. Hope is one of my favorites, and and Jason Robert Brown, love. But when you're putting a concert together, obviously when you go back, Judy Garland once said to Tony Bennett, he said the greatest advice that she ever gave him was the fact that the audience is going to expect songs like I Left My Heart in San Francisco, I'm talking about Tony Bennett, and Over the Rainbow, but give them at least 1 or 2 new things each time.
Yeah.
And what is your process in terms of putting a concert together?
It's very interesting, and I sometimes my band gets a little, well, God love them, they're very patient with me, but I cannot put together a set until like the morning of or the day of a concert, because so much of it for me depends on what's going on emotionally, what's going on in the world. Maybe something has happened in politics that I suddenly want to address. And in the music industry, I'm sure you all know, the industry itself wants to be able to pigeonhole you and kind of go, oh, she's a jazz singer. Oh, she's a folk singer. She's a pop singer. She's a cabaret artist. And I'm kind of a combination of all of those things. And my show is never the same twice because of where I am emotionally. And I very specifically build a set to take people on a ride. There's a place I want to start, and then I'm going to create a ride that we're all going to take, and we'll tie it up nicely at the end so that you're begging for 3 encores. It's completely manipulative.
Well, earlier this week, we lost Tina Turner.
Yeah.
And as I heard the accolades coming in, and I think about where I desire to be in the business and where I'd like to be, to have that kind of outpouring of love from your peers is, I guess, the greatest thing that could happen for an artist. And I've always said, I love, love, love being on stage, but I also love being in the audience. If there's a great artist such as yourself, Suede, I am really, it gives me almost, I was reading an article today where it said that the lines are blurred between fantasy and reality because the brain doesn't always process it that way. But when I am watching a great artist, I get the same endorphins and feelings that I do when I'm on stage myself.
Sure.
Who are those artists for you that you have been in the audience that have just touched you on such a level that just remains with you?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's an interesting question. There are a lot of people who, and it's the same. It's all about the connection, isn't it? I mean, it's why we do what we do. It's why we get on the stage. It's why we choose the music that we do. It's all about connection. So whatever side you're on of that, I mean, Tina Turner, I got to see her live 3 times, and every single time you're in that space, and she just filled the room with her energy, with the connection like that. But what other people? Catherine Russell does that to me.
And in this book of world records, because she had the largest audience of any artist in history, what, for yourself, would you say is the largest audience that you've ever had at any one given time?
Well, that's easy. I was one of the headlining performers at the 1993 March on Washington for lesbian, gay, et cetera, MOUSE rights. And so my spot came up right at the 6 o'clock news hour. So I was on all the national news networks singing in front of, the Park Service said it was 600,000 people on the mall there, and there's me standing there singing and playing my trumpet to Sister from Color Purple. And, it was so tempting to get completely lost in that moment and freak out. What am I doing here? And then it was totally like, this is one of those moments, just get out of the way and have this moment and soak it up. So that was extraordinary.
Well, I have a question from one of our viewers, Natasha Lombardi, and she says, curious, wonder what it was like working with the Flirtation.
Oh, I loved it. It was interesting. They started out as six voices and went to 5 and then went to 4. And then, they brought me in, and I was the first female member of the group, which Michael Callan, one of the founders, had always wanted me to be the first woman member of the group. And that finally ended up happening. And then we went down to 3, which was, I've never used my voice so much. The vocal acrobatics I got to do was thrilling. And then, as it turned out, I was the one who was the most flamboyant on stage.
Well, of course.
So interesting iterations. Yeah.
I want to tie you in with Betsy and Elysa for just a moment. Betsy, as we mentioned earlier, has this Jewels of the Sea, but she's also done a lot of work with Christine Lavin. And love. I actually, bear with me for 1 second. I got your video, Betsy, but it's large, so I wasn't able to download it. So I want to see here, bear with me, I'm doing this, sent. We're going to do this. We're going to show a very quick clip that Christine Lavin put this together for you.
Yes.
And you want to give us a little setup, as Johnny Carson would say, and then we'll share it.
Okay, so this book, she actually wrote a song during the Gulf oil spill, if everybody remembers that horrendous time. And she, as we were all mesmerized by what we saw on the television of this terrible oil coming into the clean water. She was flying over wind turbines on her way to a concert, and she came up with this amazing, hopeful tale of how clean energy could help save the wildlife after an oil spill. And she came up with the new lyrics to the traditional tune "Hole in the Bottom of the Sea." So,
right. And that's what we're about to see. Okay, here it is. God willing. No, here we go. Yes, there it is.
There's a hole in the bottom of the sea, a hole in the bottom of the sea.
There's a crab on a turtle, on a bird, on a dolphin, and the oil on the surface of the sea. A crab on a turtle, on the bird, on a dolphin, and the oil on the surface of the sea.
There's a windmill up on the hill, a windmill up on the hill. There's soap in the water heated by the generator by the windmill up on the hill.
We'll clean the oil of the crab and the turtle and the bird and the dolphin with the soap in the water heated by the generator by the windmill up on the hill.
No more holes in the bottom of the sea.
No more holes.
No more holes in the bottom of the sea.
Everybody!
No more holes.
No more holes. No more holes in the bottom of the sea.
I'm on Broadway and I love windmills. I like corals.
Wow. It's just amazing. Yeah.
I'm so glad you were able to play that. Christine is just going to be thrilled. I was going to tell her to join in, but I know she's seeing, what is it? Hot. Oh, what is it? The Broadway show.
Like it hot?
Some Like It
Some
Hot?
Like It Hot for about the 50th time. She's
Well,
one of those.
that's how it ends. Tell her to pop on here for a moment. Just send her the link. She can pop on.
If she's not.
Send her the link, the same link I sent you, and we'll get her on for a few moments if she can pop on.
If I can get her, but
Suede, have you ever performed any of Christine's songs?
Have I ever performed any of Christine's songs? No, I don't think. I must have. We run into each other at Cast Party at Birdland and pretend as if we've been best friends for 50 years. But I'm trying to think if the Flirts did any. Oh, I'm sure I have. Yeah, it's been a while. But I will say there's another connection here in that I pay royalties to Stephen Schwartz. So, it's all connected. And look, set off the sirens.
So I want to with each of you right now. I read a lot of books on the creative process. And so I've got some questions, some random questions that I pulled together. But the first three questions are actually surprise questions. And since Betsy is reaching out to Christine, I'm going to start with you, Suede. Pick a number 1 through 3.
2.
And it's an impact card. And he says, get something off your chest in a loving way. So now's your chance.
Ooh.
Glad I didn't get that one.
Yeah. In a loving way. Well, it did just take me 5 hours to drive up here from Cape Cod to Ogunquit when it should have been more like 3. Mm-hmm. So I will release all of the drivers who don't drive in the same sort of style that I choose to, and let that go. Okay? How's that?
Well, I have been hearing all over the news this weekend that they said that this will be the busiest travel weekend in 3 decades.
3 decades?
Yes.
Wow.
I guess it's after COVID. People are
yeah.
to get out again. And this is the first, today is the kickoff to summer. So unofficially. So travel safely, everybody. So Elysa, I'm going to have you pick a number 1 through 2.
2.
And your card, it says, As you take on new challenges, you feel calm, confident, and powerful. Is that a true statement or not?
No. That is just a hard no. Not any of those things. But I do feel grounded always. I have a wonderfully supportive family. I have a wonderful husband. Oh, oops. I knock out my headphones as I say that. Wonderful husband, wonderful daughter who's almost 16, and a fabulous dog who is hiding underneath that blanket there. I'm shocked that she hasn't made an appearance yet. And I'm very lucky, very blessed to have both my parents still. So, you know, I'm grateful for all those things, and that helps me feel better about myself and about the world. So
that's great. And there's one question left, and Betsy, it's yours. And the question is, commit to solving a problem that's been bugging you for a while and give yourself a timeline. What would you think is the biggest challenge that you're facing artistically right now?
OMG, Richard, this is so appropriate for me. When I began my last book there that you were holding up, Jewels of the Sea, which was several years ago now, takes a long time for the process. Shortly after I started it, another person who's a friend of the family presented me with another story to illustrate. And I kind of I don't take on other projects that I don't begin myself anymore. But she was a friend of the family. So I said, okay, but you have to understand, I have this other book. Sorry, that's a siren here in Piermont.
That's going past our house.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's very patient. It's been literally 4 years that I have half the book sketched out, the illustrations. And this is what I need. This is the summer that it's going to happen, that I'm going to get this project done. So that's definitely the thing that I'm to do.
And as we wrap up the week on a positive note, hopefully, I want to talk about some of the national days that today is. And the first, and I'm going to start with you, Suede, is National Blueberry Cheesecake Day. Are you a cheesecake fan?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, and do you like blueberry cheesecake?
I love blueberries.
Yes, well, I do too. Betsy, come over tonight for some blueberry cheesecake.
Did Dan make it or did you?
No, Danny's going to pick it up. I told you.
I could.
So come and join us. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Today is also Cooler Day, and it's Cooler Day because we are starting to pull our coolers out and starting to go on beach picnics, everything. Elysa, are you an outdoor type of person, and do you take the time to do a picnic from time to time?
Occasionally. I mean, I'm an outdoor person, like outdoor Central Park. You know, I'm not going hiking or, you know, I'm not a big outdoor sports person. But I love walking around the city. I love, and I love being outdoors in weather like this. My goodness, for certainly. Yeah.
It's great. It's funny because I don't know if you know about the Pomodoro effect. Do any of you know about this? This guy came up with the Pomodoro is a timer. And so I set my timer, believe it or not, at 90 minute intervals throughout the day so that I can get up from my desk. I can get up, I can stretch, and our dog, Benny, it's like Pavlov's dog. Every time the timer goes off, he gets a treat. So now what is I started taking him for a walk through the churchyard or just around every hour and a half. And so now instead of coming in for a treat, he goes and gets his leash and comes back. So he's easily trainable and everything. So Betsy, today is also Don't Fry Day. And it's not about fried foods. It's about the fact that so many people get fry themselves in the sun in the summer. Are you a sun person? Do you spend a lot of time in the sun?
Well, if you look at my skin tone compared to all of yours, you can see, doesn't it look like I have a tan? it's not a tan. I'm Italian. I'm Italian, and it's just my skin color. Really. Oh wait, do I have a little bit?
No.
I might have a little bit. Sorry.
Do you spend a lot of time in the sun?
I used to. I used to have the album covers where you open it like this and you put the aluminum foil. Ladies, do you remember that? I did that. Just very silly thing to do, but no. Now it's hats and sunscreen and everything.
It's a different sun now than what we had as kids. It really is.
Right.
So Suede, today is also Paper Airplane Day, and so I'm just going to ask, what do you do just to get away from it all?
Oh, well, I go pop the top on my Miata and try to remember sunscreen because I love to be in the sun and I love to be outside. And I take a little toot on the back roads of Cape Cod with my dog, Sadie, who's always with me, who's with me being perfectly behaved right now. Yes.
What do you have?
She is best guess is a mix of border collie and shepherd.
Wow.
And she was either dumped or born in a junkyard in South Carolina and ended up coming to me when she was about a year old. She was the leader of the pack, literally, and was completely wild. She's now 13 and a half. I taught her, I had to teach her everything. We walked in the house and she looked at the TV, which was turned off, and went, "Arr," and the ceiling fan, "Arr," everything. And she's just a magnificent beast and constantly with me.
Our Nellie is a rescue from the South as well, from Little Rock, Arkansas. That's why we named her Nellie.
Love it.
Lorelei?
Sorry?
Could have been Lorelei Lee.
Lorelei Lee.
Yeah.
I actually had a dog named Horace Vandegelder for a long time.
Oh, love it.
I remember
Sadie was almost named Maybelline because she was from the South, and her markings are such that she has what looks like perfectly applied mascara and white up to that looks like white long gloves. So I almost named her Maybelline, but I thought I was trying to train her that I'd be going, no, maybe, and that would be, she'd end up in therapy, I figured. Not good.
And Elysa, today is also National Road Trip Day. When was the last time that you've taken a road trip, Elysa, just for the fun of it, with no work involved?
See, I would have said last year, but it wasn't just for the fun of it. It was for a wedding, which I guess is fun, right? So yeah, but not just for the heck of it. That's been a long time. I don't know if I can remember actually.
And Betsy?
Oh, I remember just Tuesday. Just Tuesday. My friend was in the pickleball, the U.S. championship in Forest Hills, Queens, at the Billie Jean. Yeah, and I went to watch him play pickleball, and he won in his division. And I had like a day of, it was like playing hooky. I drove myself down there, and it was heaven just to be off watching pickleball for the day.
Oh, that's great. And Suede, with you?
Oh, the last time I took a road trip for the sake of a road trip, not for work.
That's right.
I have this amazing cottage that I rent in Boothbay, Maine, and I took a trip up there in February for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it snowed and snowed and snowed and snowed, which I love because I love to shovel. But yeah, that was strictly not going to be work related. I'm going to go take a little bit of time and space, as I mentioned earlier. And otherwise, my life is sort of a road trip.
Wow.
Knock wood.
I can't believe
Good.
this flew. I love all of you, and the fact that you all said yes to me means the world. I'm going to give you all a chance to have your final word today. It can be about anything that we spoke about that you want to expound upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to leave everyone with. And so, wait, I've got a favor I want to ask of you. Next Friday, for everyone who's watching, is National Gun Violence Prevention Day.
Mm.
And I, a few weeks ago, saw this incredible interview on CNN with Ryan Busey. He's written a book called Gunfight. And the book is he grew up in a gun household. His father taught him about the respect of guns, and he worked for the NRA. And he is a Republican, but he is fighting the NRA in terms of changing our gun laws. And I saw this interview, and I wrote and I said, I really would love to have you on my show. And he's going to be on my show next Friday.
Wow.
So I would love, if with your to play the song as part of the show, because it, to me, epitomizes where we are with this message right now. Do you mind?
The song Hope?
Yes.
Oh, I'd be thrilled.
Yes.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Part of next week's show. Again, thank you all for being here today. And Betsy, I'm serious about the blueberry cheesecake. Come by later tonight, and we'll just hang out in the backyard with no agenda. So I want to thank everybody for being here today. And I know that I can speak for all of my guests when I say this. When you take the time to spend time with any of us, whether it's reading a book or being at a concert or something, we don't take it lightly. You could have done anything else for the last hour, and the fact that you all said yes to being here means the world to me. I end every show by telling everyone to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. Pick up the phone and make a phone call to someone who has made a difference in your life. I'd like all of you to do the same thing. Pick up the phone, call someone that you haven't spoken to in a while, just to say, you're on my mind, and I want you to know you matter to me. Because we don't do enough of that in the world now. And I don't mean an email message or a text message or private inbox message. I mean a phone call. I have a dear friend, and he says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. And with that, I'm going to leave the screen. Betsy, I'm going to turn it over to you. And when you finish, you will pick the next person. And then that person will pick the last person standing. And don't worry about how to end the show. As soon as we hear the goodbye, the closing credits will start. And Betsy, I'm turning it all over to you now. I love you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard, for inviting me here and meeting these wonderful ladies. OMG. I want to see the your next concert here, Suede, in Piermont at the Turning Point. And because I'm a children's book creator, I think the future of our planet is in the hands of our children. And in fact, that's what a critic said about one of our books, Christine's book, the one that you just saw a little bit of. Kirkus Reviews, a very highly respected company, book reviewer, said, if the fate of the planet is in the hands of our children, then reading them books like this might be a wise idea. And I am so grateful to have made the acquaintance of Christine Lavin, and I'm able to work with her because the two of us are on a mission to teach in our own way as artists, science in a very creative way. And we're trying to grow little scientists when we open a book, when we open a science book, one of our books, any book, read to your children and get them out there and explore nature. So Elysa, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Betsy. It was so lovely to meet the both of you as well. Betsy, your work sounds fabulous. I want to look into it more. And Suede, I'm a great admirer, and this was a real perk, a real treat to spend time with you as well and get to hear your story. And I guess, this was such a positive experience, and I love the way that Richard ended it. And so often when to kind of expand a little bit on what Betsy said about, setting examples for our children, or what our children will inherit, what they will bring. So much time we spend looking at the screen, which, you know, as a mother of a teenage daughter, she looks at it more than I do. And there's so much negativity, so much cynicism, so much snark, so much venom, you know, and it's what a lovely thing to have a forum for something that's exactly the opposite, and to get to have a conversation with three really creative people who send really good vibes out. And I will carry that with me through the holiday weekend, certainly. Suede, to you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, yes, ditto to everything you all just said. And I would just add as well that I'm sure a lot of us have done a lot of interviews through the years with a lot of different people, and a real favorite of mine, just right off the bat, is any time I have a chance to chat with Richard. He's just the greatest host, and he always asks interesting, different questions, clearly does his homework. So it's just an absolute pleasure to be here. And then to have the chance to do that with the two of you today was total bonus. Just loved it. So glad to connect with you all, and have a safe weekend, and keep putting all of the good and the love and the connection out into the world that you're putting out into the world, because it does make a difference, and that's what lasts. So thank you so much for having me, Richard. Everybody take good care. Have a good, safe weekend. Bye-bye.